thanks for coming in.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the show. Nice to see you.
Oh, it's good to be here.
I've never opened up an interview like this before, but I was on your Twitter the other day,
Oh, boy.
and I saw a photo. Never good, hey?
No. Twitter's, we all know what Twitter's about.
This is not so bad. So I saw a photo of you and your buddy. You're both shirtless. I know, it's a great way to start things.
Yeah, it's a great way.
But it says FU stereotypes underneath it. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, I mean, that's referring to this kind of Asian masculinity conversation that's been popping up as of late. But basically, it's this idea that, Asian men growing up in the Western Hemisphere, we just hadn't had a lot of positive attributes associated with us,
Right.
And certainly haven't been portrayed in media as anything, I want to say like sexy, athletic, desirable. Typically, we're seen as, this geeky sidekick, not the main character of our own story. So, yeah, the point of me posting that photo, that was me and my friend Jason, it was kind of just to fly in the face of that and to say, no, we're gonna kind of blaze our own trail and not listen to what the media's telling us that we are.
I'm not surprised to see the reaction in it. I'm just seeing the reaction of Kim's Convenience. I got to watch a lot of it over Christmas. I've watched a little bit throughout my life, but over Christmas I got to watch a lot of it. I know season 3 premieres tonight. I got to see it, but I'm not going to spoil it. One of the big questions when season 2 ended was whether your character Jung and his dad Appa were going to reconcile. Let's take a listen to this scene from the season 2 finale. So this is during a party to celebrate Jung getting his GED, or his high school diploma, at the age of 26.
You always running away from your problem. That's your problem.
And your problem is you think you know better than everyone else, but you don't. You never did.
Okay? You solve a problem by yourself.
I've been doing that on my own for a while now.
Maybe you're not on your own if you listen to people who know better.
I'm fine.
Then why you have Jung?
Don't touch me.
Why not touch you?
I don't need this.
A tense scene between Jung and his father Appa on Kim's Convenience. Yeah, I meant what I said at the beginning, is that it's a funny show, but it gets very real about the conflict within a family.
Yeah, and what I love about this scene so much, and credit to our writers for just being so incredibly talented in their work, but it's just that it starts off with the best of intentions, right? Appa is saying, what all parents really, he's doing what all parents want to do, which is just to guide his son and give his son some useful advice. And, but because of the history that's built up over time between the two of them, because of the intricacies of their relationship, obviously it ends up falling apart. But I think that strikes such a relatable chord with not just, people who are Korean or even Asian, but I think anybody who's ever grown up in a household where they've disagreed with their parents.
Yeah, and that's something you've been really candid about. I read your, last year you published this beautiful letter in Maclean's magazine.
Yeah.
About your family. You wrote to your parents thanking them, and you said that you say that the role of playing Jung, this role in Kim's Convenience, amounts to playing yourself on TV. So what did you mean by that?
So, I was introduced to Kim's Convenience through the play. I saw it in the winter of 2015, and it was really the first time that I'd ever seen my story told on stage. It was such an incredible experience. Changed my relationship with theater, because up until that point, going to theater was almost like going to the museum. It was like, oh, this is wonderful. I like the costumes. They're very nice. People talk funny. But I never really thought that it could be like a transcendent experience where you could learn about yourself while watching these characters on stage. Was a truly incredible moment. And it made me think about my relationship with my own parents. And, those of you guys listening who have grown up in immigrant households will know. But, when you share a house with people who grew up in a completely different time with completely different values and oftentimes speak a totally different language, you're just going to butt heads. There's going to be moments where you disagree, and that's putting it very lightly, of course. Yeah. And there's feelings of resentment that come out of that as a child growing up, because for example, I never wanted my parents to pack me a lunch that was ethnic, because I was always getting made fun of for my smelly lunches. I always wanted to go to sleepovers, and I always wanted to invite my friends over. My parents didn't love doing that because they were always anxious about their own English speaking ability, and they didn't want to embarrass me or themselves. And, this letter really, the catalyst of this actually was my mother turning 60. I had written a letter to my mother that was very similar to the one that I published on Maclean's. And I had a friend, Adrian Lee, who's a writer on Maclean's, who I'd kind of spoken to, and he was like, "Well, we're doing this thing called Before You Go, which is a letter series where you talk to your loved ones and you say the words that you never really have the guts to say on a daily basis."
Yeah.
And it was just like the perfect storm, it like the perfect timing of everything. So I took the letter that I wrote to my mother. Obviously, I changed it around a little bit, took out some of the more personal things,
Yeah.
and then I sent it over.
I mean, I want to talk about this as much as you want, but it's. I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, you have to write about anger, about running away from home, about sort of being not embarrassed by your family, but wanting to stay away from your family, and then generally trying to find acceptance with them. Like I can't imagine what it's like to actually. Most people don't have those conversations.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely was a time throughout my 20s, and certainly coming out to my parents as an actor did not help things either, because I was an accountant by trade, and that was kind of my parents were like good with that.
Steady gig.
That was a steady in the multiple choice. A question of what I was allowed to do with my life. Accountant was one of them. Acting was not.
Right.
But yeah, there was a really long period of time in my life where I had resigned myself to the fact that I was not going to have a relationship with my parents once I grew up, that we were just too different, that it was too far gone. And what ended up happening because of this letter was it really did bring my parents and I closer together.
They read the letter?
They read the letter and I think reacted in the exact way that I would have hoped, which was that, I wasn't trying to gaslight them. I wasn't trying to I wasn't trying to get them to just feel really bad about themselves, but I was trying to say, I need you to know that you hurt me, that there were hurtful moments, and that you made some mistakes, which is fine because you were younger, I was younger. But then the sooner that we both acknowledge that, the sooner that we can move on from it. And we have. I mean, today, they're really one of my best friends, and that's, if you had told me that 10 years ago I would be best friends with my parents, that I would not have believed you for a second.
I'm sure they're very proud of you too.
I think they are, yeah.
I'm sure they are. If you're just tuning in, my guest is Simu Liu, who stars in CBC's hit comedy show Kim's Convenience. Season 3 premieres tonight. I don't want to give away any spoilers to the fans out there. However, I do have a short clip I want to play from the new season. Take a listen to this.
All the jobs out there are dust. I got my GED and everything.
And that's great. Not what I'd lead with, but
I just want a legit position. Good company, my own office, likable coworkers.
this culture old job. Just talk to Shannon.
It's complicated.
Simu, that's your character Jung talking with his sister, his younger sister Janet, in season 3 of Kim's
I
Convenience.
love how he thinks that having a GED means that he should be able to get any job that he wants. He's like, I have my GED.
I should be fine.
I should be fine. Companies should be, my phone should be ringing off the hook.
What else can we expect from season 3 of Kim's Convenience? Especially in terms of the relationship between you and Janet, between you and your folks.
Yeah. Well, I really loved shooting this season because it's really, I think, the season where we all hit our stride as performers, as writers, as just, people who have been just spending enough time together to really get into the flow of things. So I think that's going to show on screen a lot more. I think you're going to see us delve into our side characters a lot more as well, and just kind of flesh out our respective worlds, the worlds of the convenience store and also the handy car rental. There's a lot of really amazing, interesting, quirky characters aside from just the 6 mains, and yeah, we just kind of get into that. We lean into our side characters and all their idiosyncrasies.
Well, yeah, one of the side characters, Shannon, played by Nicole Power from Newfoundland, taught by my mom.
Of course.
I like to point that out whenever I can.
No, she's a Canadian treasure.
We're waiting on that 10% check there, Nicole. We mentioned the Kim bits. Is that ever overwhelming? Just the level of, because how do I put this without getting fired from my job? How do I put this? Okay. Canadian television, while fantastic.
Yeah. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Canadian television, while fantastic, doesn't necessarily always inspire the sort of fervor and fandom that Kim's Convenience has.
Sure. Let's see. Is it overwhelming? I mean, I haven't found it to be yet. I mean, I think that I think every show says this, but I really think that we have the best fans in the world just because they're so they've been so supportive in their fandom and so like non-intrusive in that support. I mean, I think it can be really easy to get carried away with that with the best intentions, but to really put us in a place where we feel scared for our personal safety, that's never happened.
No weird moments with fans?
I mean, not to say that there haven't been weird moments, but I think you're always gonna have a weird one every now and again. I don't know how much I can say because I don't want to out anybody. There have been weird, meet and greet moments with props. So, we'll do a lot of these fan events where we meet fans of the show and they'll take pictures of us. And sometimes somebody will just want us to take a picture with a prop, which is fine.
Like from the convenience store?
No, just like it's like their thing. So, I'll give you an example. One guy had a stuffed beaver. I think it was a beaver. It was a stuffed animal.
Oh my!
He had a lot of Canadian celebrities take photos with, and
right.
I wasn't entirely sure that he had washed this beaver in between.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it had an interesting smell to it, but we didn't say no. We were like, yeah, I guess we'll take a picture with this animal, but then weird.
Yeah, that's
right?
a weird one right there. Yeah, that's
okay.
that's. This is the beautiful world of Canadian celebrity.
Yeah.
I understand. And
There
now
you go. We made it to the big leagues.
but now the show is going to be airing in Korea. Is that meaningful to you at all?
I think it absolutely is. I mean, and I know that it's meaningful to INS as well. It's actually, it's airing all over the world since our deal with Netflix. We've premiered in over 100 countries around the world, including Korea, including other countries in Asia, and Hong Kong, Taiwan. I believe parts of Southeast Asia as well, India. I've always been really, really interested to see how the rest of the world takes something like Kim's Convenience, just because I think it is a Western concept, even though it's a show that features Asian people. The concept of moving to a new country and I think it's very Canadian at its core. Mm-hmm. It's an immigrant story, but it's about a Canadian family at the end of the day. I think our social media has really blown up since we went international. So. For better or for worse, people have really accepted it. Why would it be for worse? No, it's definitely for better.
You'll have weird, smelly props following you around everywhere you go all around the world right now. I want to close by returning back to Twitter.
Okay, yes, let's go back to Twitter.
Well, I noticed. I couldn't help but notice when I was during the Golden Globes the other night. When Sandra Oh was on stage, just how excited you were on your Twitter feed.
I was pretty excited, eh?
Where were you watching it? Were you watching it at home?
Yeah, I was watching it at home, and then I went to dinner at a sports bar, and this is hilarious. Like, I was at a sports bar, and they were playing the Golden Globes on one of the screens, so I was watching that while I was watching the Raptors game.
What were you feeling?
Oh God, pride. I think it is a mix of emotions, but pride is the big one among all of them. And just to hear and Sandra represents not just Asians in the West, but also Canadians. She's Canadian. And just to see her on that stage, I think owning it, kind of looking right into the camera and saying, I see you. You are seen. And in this moment, we are here. Just the acknowledgement of that, it just gave me tremendous pride. And, I couldn't think of anybody else that was more deserving of that award. So.
But it must mean something to know that Kim's Convenience is also part of that conversation right now.
As a community, and certainly Kim's Convenience is a piece of it, but we have had just such an amazing year in terms of our I guess, fight to achieve better representation. Starting with Crazy Rich Asians, obviously that is the biggest kind of story in that piece, but then you have Lana Condor, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, you've had Searching, starring John Cho, and then you have shows like Fresh Off the Boat, and yeah, certainly us as well. I mean, I think the fact that I could even list all of those shows and that they feature, leading Asian Americans and Asian Canadians, right. I think is a testament to how far we've truly come.
Speaking of Crazy Rich Asians, I'm going to close by this.
Oh,
I think you know what I'm going to do here. There was a lot of excitement last year when a fan tweeted that they wanted to see you and Henry Golding, the star of Crazy Rich Asians, co-star in a romantic comedy together. Mm-hmm. So Henry Golding tweeted a fist bump and a heart at you with the words, "Sign me up." Flair magazine called it a budding romance.
Yeah, that's basically, in the Twitter world, that's basically a legally binding document.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've officially, he's definitely signed on. No, it's really great. I had the pleasure of meeting Henry one time, but he's a super nice guy. And, you know, what I love about the whole community of Asian American and Canadian entertainers as a whole is just how willing they are to kind of reach back and support each other. So, yeah, hey, who knows? Maybe we'll get to do it one day.
You never know. And I'll be there interviewing you about it. It's nice to talk to you. Thanks for coming in and facing the tweet questions.
So much for having me.
I'll admit this. Like I was a fan of Kim's Convenience in that I was a fan of Kim's Convenience when I would see it. And then over Christmas, I guess it was on CBC all the time. They were playing it like they used to play Happy Gilmore. Remember CBC used to play Happy Gilmore like every night?
Oh, God.
And now, which is great. But I must have watched like 8, 9, 10 episodes of Kim's Convenience in a row. And then I'm officially a fan of the show.
Yeah. I love the show because it's kind of this lean back watching experience. It's not like a lean in and you know, I like an intense kind of watching endeavor. It's really just like you have it on and you just kind of feel good, and it's very relaxing, and no one's trying to push you an agenda. It's just kind of watching this family going through
And there's nice
slice of
little
life.
subtle jokes in there too. Quiet little jokes in there too that you can catch.
Yeah.
I like them a lot. Nice to talk to you.
You too, Tom.